Hey YouTube, I'm back again with another live book reading. Y'all know my Kashmere read sessions where I pick a book out of my collection of books and I read it for you guys. Um, so I decided to come back with Reshona Landfair's Who's Watching Shorty, reclaim myself from the shame of R. Kelly's abuse. Now, mind you, I took a break and started reading other books because, like I said, I didn't read most of this book, and it is crazy. It's a lot of troubling moments in this book, a lot of things that is pretty heartbreaking and traumatizing, especially if you're someone that went through this or you know someone that went through this or something like this. So, anyway, I'm currently on chapter 8, uh, Everybody's Secret. Once again, this is Who's Watching Shorty, Reclaim Myself from the Shame of R. Kelly's Abuse by Reshona Landfair. Foreword by Drew Dixon. Reshona Landfair was the young woman in the R. Kelly infamous tape. Um, And this is her story where she speaks about what she was going through before, during, and after that time of her life being involved with R. Kelly. Because Robert and I were continuing our relationship under the cloud of his 21 count child pornography indictment, we couldn't even make the truth look true. I could no longer hide in plain sight as Robert's goddaughter, so he sent me underground, an effort that hold on. So he sent me underground, an effort that became an all hands on deck operation in Robert's chocolate factory. I didn't have a bird's eye view of what it took for Robert's plan to work. I didn't know what it was, what I would be required to do, how long it would last. But as I think back on those nearly 7 years, the best way I can describe that time is that it felt like riding a roller coaster backward and blindfolded while the person at the controls slammed on the brakes whenever the move hit him. Whether I was upside down or at the top of a steep drop. First, I moved into his Chicago track studio several months before Robert's June 5th, 2002 indictment. Robert told me he had hands selected a group of people he trusted and let them know I was around. Studio manager Tom Arnold, personal assistant June Brown, musical director Donnie Lau, sound engineers Ian and Abel, and his personal chef Janet. He also told a lady who was a really good friend of his named Kathy, as well as his accountant and manager Darrell McDavid. But those 8 people were only the tip of the iceberg because Robert had a legion of folks milling around the studio as runners, assistants, engineers, musicians, business folks, bodyguards, and sex partners at every level. I was no stranger to these folks. They used to see me around all the time, but now I was the secret everybody was keeping. Some knew my name and some my aliases. If I was hungry, I called down to order food under the alias name. I ordered the same things that Reshona liked to eat using Reshona's same voice. Then the person who was delivering it would knock a certain cold knock on the door and leave the food on the tray on the floor. Some knew my face some of my wigs and sunglasses. If I need to use the bathroom, I pee in the cup rather than leave the room. Or I put on a wig and run to the bathroom and then run back. Not coincidentally, I was the same size and complexion as Reshona. And if I needed to leave the studio and go somewhere, I put on huge dark sunglasses along with the wig and keep quiet. I was too bogged down with with misery, anxiety, secrets, and lies to question what Robert told me. But the word on the street was that at the very same time that Robert's ever-present goddaughter was shown to disappear into thin air, and he was being investigated for child sex abuse against the same girl, this new shadowy presence showed up behind the door. She was a dead ringer for Reshona from behind, if not for her blonde bob. You get the point, of course. Everybody working for Robert knew that it was me. And then there were the people who knew my name and my face, but who had their own complicated reasons for assisting they, but who had their own complicated reasons for insisting they were ignorant of any relationship beyond that of my being Robert and Andrea's beloved goddaughter. I believe that my godmother, Andrea, fell into that category. I didn't know it then, but I certainly know now that she was preoccupied with her own domestic abuse at Robert's hands and that he controlled her as much as anyone. A, a beautiful woman with a kind heart, she did show me the care and concern of a godmother earlier in our relationship. That's why I felt confused about her and Robert. It was hard to know how Andrea felt about Robert with other women and girls, of course, as my grooming and abuse by him led me to have romantic feelings for him. My positive feelings towards Andrea morphed into jealousy. I thought I wanted what I believed she had. There's so much more I could write about what I came to see and know about her abusive marriage, and I'm sure she could say the same about my child sexual abuse, but I won't. It's not to protect Robert or even her, but I recognize that she was likely operating in self-preservation mode for the good of of their children. Their oldest was 14 years younger than I was, and Andrea was pregnant with their youngest when the indictments came down. Unfortunately for Andrea, surviving her marriage until she managed to escape it meant choosing her battles with Robert. I imagine she just didn't have the bandwidth to process and address whatever she suspected or knew about my abuse within her home or outside of it. I wasn't preoccupied with Andrea's hardships, however. Hold up in whatever room Robert had me in all day, I was consumed with enduring my own hellish existence. He would let me come out only if the studio was quiet and he was having a late night session. Then I could sit in the session with him, or sometimes he would have Janet cook us breakfast and we sit under a blanket in the backseat of his Hummer in the garage and eat it together. But despite these little moments of kindness and charm, I was miserable. We were fighting constantly because I was in hiding while Robert was dating another woman whom he had made a priority over me. Man. Being trapped behind the black windowless walls of the studio robbed me of the sun and made the days run together in my head. It was always night in the 24/7 dreary darkness of the studio. How creativity could blossom anywhere in that maze of dark rooms was beyond me. I felt like I was withering. Robert's answer to this was to get us a secret apartment downtown. The newness of the scandal had died down by this point, but the investigation was still dragging on, so Robert felt this was a good time to let the knowledge of me at the studio fade to black. What made the apartment a secret was that my parents didn't know about it. Even though I was technically still living under their roof, they knew me to be at the studio. So moving to an apartment would be yet another act of rebellion against them. I was still only 17 at the time and had never lied and had ever lived anywhere alone. So it scared me to live in a downtown apartment by myself. Robert and I got into a big argument about it. I'm showing you my efforts show really being there for you in your corner, and you ain't giving me that same respect in return. Dude glint in his black pupils as if to mock me. But daddy, I squirmed. Back up, my skin felt clammy. I wanted to walk out of the room and away from our conversation, but there was no way he let me. His stare felt like he was dissecting every thought in my mind. Defy my parents or defy Robert, both options thumped inside my head and made me sick to my stomach. Daddy, what? Robert voice was nails on the chalkboard. Look, show. We've been over this a million times already. You keep telling me you're scared, but now you're going to stop being scared unless you fucking do it scared. Shit. But suppose my parents catch me, then what, show? I mean, they know we in love, so they know we making love. What's there to catch? If you choosing me like I'm choosing you, then you gotta make them respect your choice. I gnawed at my thumbnail. This lie felt different. I guess it was because my parents were in on the big lie. And yet I be lying in their faces about where I was living. Of course, I didn't have to lie. Robert wanted me to be upfront and declare that I had chosen our relationship. That would force my parents to deal with my decision to live downtown as Robert's teenage mistress in hiding. After all, what would they do about it? They were following Robert's orders as much as I was, but this hit different. Before my lie to my parents had been a secret of my relationship with Robert. He had trained me to lie through denial and deflection, and I knew how to do that well. But now that they knew about our relationship, I either had to put up my middle finger right in their faces or lie to mom and dad about where I was every night while still strong arm and numb to protect my and Robert's relationship. Here I am, spending all this fucking money on a beautiful place you can be comfortable and safe in, and you just shit and breaks because you're scared. Then if I give the place up, what then? He hugged, and his hot breath covered my face. What you're saying to me is stupid, show straight up. I'm not written out some hole in the wall. I know. And I'm serious as a heart attack right now. My silence felt like a weight. The silence felt like a weight on my chest. I knew there was only one answer. Yes, Daddy. Good. Took you long enough. Robert called June Brown to tell him. She said yes. What in the Jesus? Ay, 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 ay. June was silent as he brought in my things and helped me to get settled in. I didn't speak to him either since Robert forbade us from conversing. I wondered if he could tell how upset I was about my predicament. The apartment was nice, but because I was sneaking to stay there right under my parents' nose, I always felt uneasy. I started spending time at the apartment without fully living there. I still prefer being at the studio because it was an environment I was more familiar with, even though it was dreary and claustrophobic. I guess he eventually got rid of the apartment and then I moved into his tour bus, which was parked at his Olympia Fields home, the massive mansion that was then his primary Chicagoland home. Anniversaries remember. The years 2002 through 2008 remain in the dead zone in your memory. The run-ups to Robert's indictment through the end of his trial more than 6 years later is stuck in a fog of hurt and shame. Even now, as you try to untangle the web of those years, some memories zigzag through the dead zone, out of order and raggedy. The half-rotted corpse of pain and humiliation sleeping in shallow graves, unable to find dates on the calendar. You make your mind a safe place for good memories, but still, you must be careful. Not all memories about Robert are bad, and with the bad memories buried, the good memories can push up daisies. Trauma makes you want to revise your past, but you will not let your mind be a garden of beautiful lives. So you revisit the graves only long enough to let the ghosts out. I'm reclaiming their time, but not the trauma. Each day was a nagging repetition of the day before, punctuated only by Robert flipping a script on me whenever it suited him. With no friends outside of Robert, no stability, and no sense of self, I was losing my grip on reality and wondering if God even remembered my name. I was with this frame of mind that it was with this frame of mind that I was completing my junior and senior years of high school as a homeschooler in 2002 and 2003. On paper, homeschool was my parents or my cousins who were licensed teachers teaching me their curriculum laid out by Christian Liberty Academy. The first time I was homeschooled was when I was for the cause, and it was certified through the CLA program. This time, however, I was largely left to my own devices to progress through my lessons. Robert provided me with a cell phone, but he monitored all my calls and text messages. There was a very short list of approved numbers I could call or text and ask a question if I needed help. If those calls last too long or if the text thread reared off topic, Robert would question and discipline me for it. Sometimes with a spanking and sometimes by withholding food or bathroom privileges. I knew that Robert didn't handle his own bills though. Darrell did most of that, so Robert must have had someone else reviewing and flagging stuff for him. Even with those challenges, I held on to my parents' dream of seeing little Greg and me graduate high school, along with the doses of encouragement my cousins offered me. I just want to know how the hell he knew all of this if his ass couldn't read or write. School was one of the few things that kept me put in one foot in front of the other. Determined not to fail, if I got stuck on something, I would hunt for resources. But the physical and emotional constraints of my circumstances kept it from being an enriched education. I was pretty much just getting by, and unfortunately, I still had some of the learning gaps I developed in. I wasn't allowed to see my family or the new friends I still had, even on holidays. Most of my and Robert's arguments and fights and his abuse of me stemmed from me hating this part of him that seemed happy to make me miserable. So Robert came up with this latest effort to plant insecurity and jealousy deep inside me. He decided to pair me with one of his newest sexual partners, a young woman I'll call Lisa. I was jealous of her, and she was jealous of me too when we first met, mostly because that's how Robert liked to do it. He always played one woman off the other, so we compete to be his best girl rather than see each other as allies. Since I didn't have any friends or anyone I could relate to, Robert would send the two of us out to shop or errands. She later told me that shortly before she and I first went out, Robert had broken down crying in her lap, confiding how much he loved me and that he feared he had ruined me. Because of that experience, she knew there was something different about me. She explained that she had a soft spot for me. We became cool, and over time, I really valued her friendship. When I shared some of the negative dynamics of my relationship with Robert, she had a quick comeback. I wish he would. He knew who played that with. Alyssa had already spelled out to me that no part of her life required Robert's approval. Walking into their situationship with both eyes open and on her own terms, Alyssa wasn't afraid to assert herself with Robert. I wish I could be like you. My voice was wistful. Girl, shit, didn't be like me. Alyssa purrs her lips. I'm not going to lie, Sean. I can hardly imagine Robert acting mean or controlling like you say he does to you. I mean, I'm not saying you're lying, but I mean, this man cries in my arms about you. She hunched her shoulders. I just can't see it, is all I'm trying to say. Just because you can't see it don't mean it's not happening. I stared straight to Alyssa to force her to hold my stare. When you started messing with Robert, you were already a whole damn woman. What are you, 21, 22? Yeah, about that. And, and you already had a job and pay your own rent. Okay, so I was 18 when I met you, and I've been with Robert for 5 years already. Damn, Sean, she seemed amazed. You know how to stick up for yourself, how to not make I'm gonna take shit from him and make him respect you. I can't do that. He'll just shut me down. I mean, I bet you don't depend on him for one thing in your life. I don't mind spending all his Benjamins, Alyssa laughed, and I joined her as she pretended to scatter $100 bills from a tall stack of cash. But you're right, though. Robert's money is play money for me. Seriously, Alyssa, you could walk out this door just as easily as you walk through it, and you still know exactly who you are. I felt like I had finally made a point. I searched her face looking for understanding. Hold on, y'all, because y'all know these chapters just getting longer and longer as I'm getting somewhat near the end of the book. And to be honest, I really don't like reading too damn long, but I'll be trying my best to get through it. Cause I find myself stumbling over words, having to repeat the sentence. Having to read the sentence over and shit like that. But I try to get through these books. I got so many books I haven't started yet. I got books that I started and stopped. I got books I got through halfway and just said fuck it. So, and then a lot of these books have. Some of these books might have some things that be had me shaking my head. What is that Trayvon Martin book? That book was sad. Oh, that book was sad. I was having a hard time getting through that book. I don't know what it is. For someone that like to read, I don't know. I just don't like reading out loud for a long time, but I'll be trying. I'll be trying. And then ain't none of my. And well, I got one person. I don't really go on his broadcast like that, but I got one person I'm cool with that's online. But the main people who I really talk to, they not online as of yet. So I'm bored. See, that's where you lost me, girl. I mean, even if you see a darker side of his money as, I mean, as his messy ass than I do, you still a whole damn woman, same as me. You're still you, beautiful and smart too. And anybody with eyes can see you got all your goods in full working order. She chuckled and bounced her behind for impetus. So act like it, you know. I couldn't laugh with her this time. She didn't get it. It's just not that simple, Alyssa. Girl, look, I'm not saying Robert's perfect. He sure as hell wouldn't know how to be faithful if somebody put a gun to his damn head. We nodded our agreement, but even if he can be an asshole sometimes, maybe you're making some of the shit it between your heart. I mean, he seems to be hooked on whatever you got between your ears and your legs. So if he wants some of that good, make him work for it. That's it. Yeah, Alyssa had more faith in Robert and me than I did. I decided not to say more. Some of Robert's, excuse me, some of the arguments between Robert and me were about her. I fussed that if he could treat her right, he could do the same by me. What I learned the hard way that what he could do and what he would do were two completely different things. And unfortunately for me, I had banked my entire life on him, and he had groomed me and my parents in the way that Alyssa would never have allowed. That's why he never felt like he had to treat me any better than he did. Through our friendship, though our friendship was outlived by my, hold up, though our friendship has outlived my relationship with Robert, I had to be careful not to overshare with Felissa since she may still be in contact with him. I know that she thinks Robert was just confirming to the evils of the music industry and that music executive didn't have a problem with him until he started trying to buy back his masters and mess with their money. But to my mind, you can't make a man's faults, demons, and predatory behavior toward young women and girls just a problem with the industry, as messed up as it is. Alyssa, even though you had some blind spots when it comes to Robert, I still appreciate our unexpected organic friendship. It was a saving grace that came at a time when I needed it most. What Robert meant for evil became something good for us. You cared about me without hurting me, always showed up for yourself and took up space and gave me a down to earth model of how to be a whole person in romantic and sexual relationships. I'm about to take a break and I'm gonna come back a little later because I don't feel like reading anymore. Y'all stay tuned. I'm gonna come back a little later.